When you take a look at the actual Trello app, when you move one of the tasks, it kind of tilts a little bit to the right, and the placeholder up underneath it is a gray rectangle. How might we go about adding that same styling to our Trello board? Well, Draggable provides some handy classes for us to target those different states within the drag process. Namely, there are three different classes that we can use. The first one is called Sortable Chosen. This is the class added to the element when you first choose it, aka when you first click and hold down on it to start your drag. There's also .sortable drag, and this applies whenever you actually start moving the item after you've chosen it. Finally is Sortable Ghost. This targets that element that's underneath the task and moves around behind it. Let's just quickly throw some different background colors on each of these so you can see what we're talking about. I'll give the ghost blue, the drag red, and the chosen green. Over in the browser now, when I first click down on my task, you see it lights up green. So that's that sortable chosen class. Now, when I start to move it, the task on top becomes red. That's the sortable drag in action. And the task underneath that, that's kind of moving in the actual flow of the document, has turned blue. That's what's known as the ghost. Therefore, in order to get that tilt that we're looking for, one thing I could do is apply a transform when we start to drag the element. And that'll just be a rotate of, let's say, 5 degrees. I tried things out and played around a little bit, and that seems just about right. Now, for some reason or another, it wouldn't apply the transform directly to the sortable drag as I wanted it to. So another thing I had to play around with just a little bit here is actually nesting my task one level deeper inside of the draggable component. So over here in Trello board, I just wrapped Trello board task with a div. And then here, I was able to target the task class that was a child of sortable drag. All right, this time in the browser, when I start dragging an item, sure enough, it tilts a little bit to the right. Let's also make our ghost look like the actual Trello app as well. I found the best way to go about this was to cover the entire ghost with a gray overlay. This was necessary because the ghost in our case includes all the content that the original card has. So I'll need to add a position of relative to the sortable ghost task, and then add an after element that we can position absolutely on top of it. And now I'm just going to use the apply feature from Tailwind CSS to use those Tailwind classes directly in my style section. So I can say apply and then any Tailwind CSS classes. So I'll set it to be absolute and then set every single position here, top, bottom, left, and right, to 0 so that it stretches across the entire task card. Then I'll give it that background color that's going to be the gray that I want. Let's do BG Slate 300. I believe that's just one shade lighter than the column background. Finally, I'll also give it a class of rounded here so that the corners don't stick out of the card. Awesome. While we're at it, we don't need to target the chosen class in order to mimic the Trello app. So let me just remove that, and we'll be able to see the finished styling. Awesome. It tilts just a little bit when we move it, and the ghost underneath is a nice solid gray color. I must say, we've mimicked that drag style quite nicely.